I'm going to go shut that door. Hold on. Don't ask me why they crank up the air over there. Except to Freon gas me. I don't know. That's what goes on in my head. What goes on in yours? When you are alone with your thoughts. We are reading Conversations on Common Things by Dorothea Dix, and I am so happy to be reading this book. I think it is a book for all ages, but what I think is most interesting and also I would say surprising is that popped up there like that for sure. But that there's so many things I don't know that were just taught like to children, common things that people knew, common conversations you had with your daughter. It rains quite hard, Mother, and the clouds are thick and heavy. Father is writing in the study, and Henry is busy with his books. I think we shall not be interrupted this hour. Please to tell me now about salt mines and the making of salt. You seem so happy in the anticipation of enjoying this evening without interruption that I cannot refuse you the subject you desire, though I trust, should we be interrupted, you will exercise a proper degree of patience and good humor, even should it be when engaged in the most interesting part of our conversation. I shall try, Mother, to submit with propriety, though I hope I shall not be obliged to meet a trial of my temper. I will begin then by informing you that there are three kinds of common or culinary salt, and that salt exists both in a solid and fluid state. I shall speak first of solid or mineral salt, also called fossil salt. It occurs mostly below the surface of the earth, but it sometimes rises into high hills. I'm gonna highlight that. But it sometimes rises into high hills and is also found over spreading tracts of considerable extent, as in the Arkansas Territory, about 1,200 miles above the mouth of the river. Wait a second, did we already read all this? Because this all sounds familiar to me. So we went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What day are we on? I must have read this to my son. I don't know. Will you give me a particular description of the salt mines near Krakow? I am very curious to know more of them. There is some poetry in one of Elizabeth's books, cousin Elizabeth's books, which describe them. I could not quite understand all the lines, so I copied them. See here they are. I will read them if you please. And when you describe the mines, I shall comprehend perhaps what Darwin means by milk-white veils and ivory channels spread. Read the passage, my dear. Thus caverned round in Krakow's mighty mines, with crystal walls a gorgeous city shines. Scooped in the briny rock, long streets extend, their hoary course and glittering domes ascend. Now the bright steeps emerging into day, impetuous fountains burst into headlong way, or milk-white valleys in ivory channels spread, and wandering seek their subterraneous bed. Far gleaming o'er the town, transparent fanes rear their white towers and wave their golden veins. Long lines of luster pour their trembling rays, and the bright vault returns the mingled blaze. Very well read, my daughter. You shall certainly have the description of Wielicza and Krakow mines. They were discovered in 1251. The length of the mines from east to west is above 6,000 feet, and the breadth from north to south above 2,000, and they are 800 feet in depth. When a stranger wishes to visit these mines, he is exhibited a suit of miner's clothes and let down by machinery a perpendicular descent of 600 feet. The place is very dark, and the miner, who descends as a guide, strikes a light and conducts the stranger forward through several gloomy winding passages, at the end of which they descend by ladders 200 feet lower into a large cavern. Through this cavern they enter upon an open plain peopled by the miners and their families, together with their horses, dogs, and other domestic animals. Nothing can exceed the brilliancy of this place, illuminated by thousands of lamps reflecting their light upon the beautiful and transparent surface of the salt in every varied color. Oh, Mother, we have now got to caverns. We have now got to caverns and crystal walls. Yes, I will immediately introduce you to the gorgeous city. Those persons who have visited these mines inform us that they have every appearance of a little city, streets and regularly laid out and cut in the solid rocks of salt. We have it now, Mother, scooped in the briny rock. Long streets appear. Pillars, altars, and temples are raised and seem the work of magic. Little springs of fresh water are found here and there, flowing over their crystal bodies. I understand milk white veils and ivory channels now. They are formed of the pure white salt. But Mother, how do horses get up and down those deep mines? They are let down by machinery, but when once there, are never taken out. How do they get their food then? It is conveyed to them from above ground. The miners could not do well without these horses, which are employed in carting the salt from one part of the mine to another. Some people who have been born in these mines have never seen the light of day. Others go frequently upon the surface of the earth. That's crazy, 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 crazy. I should not like to live there, Mother, though I believe I should have courage to visit them. I should not be much afraid to go down those difficult passages if you were with me. There is little prospect, my dear, that your courage will be put to the test. I doubt whether your travels will ever extend to the interior of Europe. You will have sufficient time to arm yourself with resolution when there is a prospect of its being called into exercise. But to resume our subject, great quantities of salt are annually exported from England. The salt springs in Cheshire are very strong, yielding a much greater proportion of salt than either the springs of France or Hungary. Bavaria has many valuable salt springs. How is salt made from salt water, Mother? The water is conveyed from the springs into large pans made of wrought iron and boiled till the salt forms in little crystals round the pans. The salt is scraped off by means of a rake adapted for the purpose, and the pans are again filled with water. This process is constantly repeated, and the salt thus obtained is a considerable article of commerce with the British. Salt springs abound in the United States. Those from which the greatest quantities of salt are manufactured are in Salina, a town in the interior of New York. In the neighborhood of these springs, more than 300,000 bushels of salt are manufactured yearly by boiling or by evaporating, and several millions of bushels might be made. In Illinois, near Shawneetown, and very extensive and valuable salt works. Now, I think I've been to Shawneetown or something like it in Indiana. Well, it's in Indiana, but that's where the Amish build furniture. And there was, also another place that was like a weird, some guy did it out of trees, all of his furniture, which was unbelievably gorgeous. But a small town little show like that just doesn't bring by people enough, and you have to do it for your for the love of it, right? And then for me, because it's not as expensive or resource dependent as some of those great big wooden chairs, I can give this leather away easily. But Salina may be part of the interior of New York. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously it says that, but I think there's a Salina in Canada as well, right across the border from Michigan, and could be New York as well. How is the third kind of salt obtained? You have told me of rock salt and of salt obtained by boiling. The third kind is obtained from seawater by evaporation and is with us commonly called bay salt. It is coarse and generally of dingy white hue. Seawater is exposed in the open air in large wooden vats to the action of the sun. It gradually crystallizes, and large quantities are thus formed on the shores of Cape Cod and at Quincy and Dorchester in Massachusetts, besides in many other places. It now only remains for me to tell you the uses and properties of salt. As it will not corrupt, it is proper for preserving meats and from tainting. It becomes purer by exposure to fire and meets at a very high degree of heat. It is said to fertilize some lands. The principal use of common salt are for seasoning food and preserving meat, fish, etc. I have told you all you need to know at present about salt, and as you wished, we have not been interrupted. Now, my daughter, go to your lesson. I see you wish to prolong our conversation this evening, but I fear you are not quite prepared for school tomorrow. You must remember never to indulge in any recreation to the neglect of your books. Amusements are proper, especially for children, if indulged in at proper times. They may be moderately enjoyed without interfering with stated employments. But do not forget that time passes solely in the pursuit of pleasure leaves no solid enjoyment for the future. Time passed solely in the pursuit of pleasure leaves no solid enjoyment for future. But from the hours you spend in reading and studying useful books, you will gather a golden harvest in future years. And that's what I have said and believed. Pleasure takes to themselves wings and fly away. True knowledge remains forever. I am much obliged to you, dear mother, for all you have taught me. I will study the lessons appointed for tomorrow's recitations. I know them almost perfectly, but I do not wish to get low in my class by negligence, nor displease my teacher by going with an imperfect knowledge of what she has given me to learn. How many kinds of salt are there? Practical questions. How many kinds of salt are there? From what countries is abundance of rock salt obtained? What use is made of it in Caramania? Where are the most celebrated salt mines? How is salt obtained from seawater? What is the process by which it is obtained from salt springs? Where are the most extensive salt works of America? Where are those of England? So always missing the verb there. Chapter 11, Conversations 11. Daughter, you promised me when you purchased your porcelain vases that you would tell me of what they were made and how. Will you this evening, dear mother? Porcelain may be regarded as the finest kind of pottery. It is a substance of middle nature between pottery and glass and is made of a composite of kaolin and feldspar, a whitish laminated feldspar in the state of earth or clay, and the petunce of a sort of clay, quite white and soft to the touch, and sulfate of barytes. These are calcinated, that is burnt in a furnace and then powdered so fine as to sift through the finest silk. To this powder, a proper quantity of water is added, and the mixture is twice strained through a silk sieve, after which it is boiled till it becomes about the thickness of cream, and then gradually evaporated till it becomes a tough plate. Wow. They're calcined, that is burnt in a furnace and then powdered. Interesting. Kind of like, it's the same, it's a similar process I would bet that they use for ammunition. All china of a circular form is thus shaped as cups, bowl. All china of a circular form is thus shaped as cups, bowls, etc. Let me see here. Gradually evaporated until it becomes a tough paste. It is in this state ready for working. Pieces are placed on a turning wheel and molded into various shapes with wonderful accuracy. All china of a circular form is thus shaped as cups, bowls, etc. Dishes and other articles are made in molds. After being formed, each piece is put in a separate clay case. A furnace built closely up, like the brick kilns I showed you the other day, is filled with these and subjected to a red heat for 60 hours. The furnace is then allowed to cool gradually when the porcelain is withdrawn, and in this state, it is called biscuit. The blue paint, which is cobalt, is next put on, and the china is ready to receive the glazing, which is made of lead and glass, ground to a fine powder and mingled with some other ingredients which are known only to those who make the preparation. The biscuit is dipped into this glazing and again baked for 40 hours when it is ready to receive the other colors and the gilding. It is again baked, the gilding would be around the outside. It is again baked 10 hours or longer according to the colors employed in ornamenting it. The gilding is now burnished with agate or bloodstone, and the china is ready for the wave room. What is bloodstone or agate? See, some of these things, it's like, painted with the martyrs of blood. I mean, with the blood of martyrs. Sometimes I think that that's for real. Porcelain passes through 17, because it would make a painting worth a lot of money, wouldn't it? And have a lot of spiritual value as well. Porcelain passes through 17, and a way to be able to give back that spiritual value to the people who are true believers, for example. Porcelain passes through 17 different processes before it is completed. You will probably now understand the animated poetical description of the manufacture of china. Here is the book. You may read the passage. Hence, ductile clays is a wide expansion spread, soft as the cygnet's down their snow-white bed, with yielding flakes successive forms reveal, and change obedient to the whirling wheel. First China's sons with early arts elate formed the gay teapot and the pictured plate, saw with illumined brow and dazzled eyes in the red stove vitrescent colors rise. Specked her tall beakers with enameled stars, her monster josses with gigantic jars, smeared her huge dragons with metallic hues, with golden purples and cobaltic blues, bayed on wide hills, her porcelain castles glare, and glaze pagodas tremble in the air. I do not know the meaning of porcelain towers, Mother. I suppose the writer cannot mean large towers made of china. But he does, my dear. The Chinese are celebrated for their fondness of towers and pagodas or temples. The famous porcelain tower of Nankin is 9 stories high and completely encrusted with tiles of the most beautiful china, which has resisted the ravages of time and stood for more than 400 years. I should like to see this tower, Mother, but as I cannot, I will think of something else. The most considerable porcelain manufacturers in England are those of Worcester, Coalbrookdale, and Swansea. Dresden in Prussia has long been famous for the beauty of its porcelain. We have several recent establishments in the United States. That at Philadelphia is the most valuable. Shall I tell you how china is printed? Do, if you please. On a copper plate, properly engraved, the color is laid, heated, and well rubbed in a sheet of fine paper. A sheet of fine paper first prepared with the secret composition is printed from this plate. The paper is cut to fit whatever is to be printed and pressed closely upon it. The biscuit is then washed in color water. The paper peels off, but the pattern remains perfectly impressed. This must be a very ingenious process. But Mother, can you tell me what Japanning is? I saw an advertisement in the paper this morning offering japanned ware for sale. It is the art of varnishing, painting, and drawing figures on wood, metals, leather, or pasteboard. Oh, that's kind of what I was doing. All substances that are either stiff or hard will admit of being japanned, will let itself be japanned. When leather is japanned, it is stretched in frames in order to keep it quite smooth and free from folds, as it would otherwise contract with crack the varnish. Paper is prepared the same way. Metals and wood require no other preparation than that they be made quite clean. Waiters, coolers, stands, dressing cases, and boxes, together with a great variety of other articles, are japanned. The name is taken from the island of Japan, where the art was invented and brought to perfection. What is varnish, Mother? It is a transparent glutinous liquid used by painters, gilders, cabinet makers, and other artificers to give a gloss and finish to their works. It is made of various kinds of gum, united with oil of turpentine. But what have you there, my dear? A cork, Mother. I was examining it this morning in order to ascertain of what it is made. It does not appear to be wood, and I do not know what it can be. Some have supposed cork to be the back of the cork tree. On the contrary, it is an excrescence formed by exudation on the cuticle or outer bark of the tree. The trees are stripped for their first time before they are 20 years old, and generally once in 8 or 10 years after. It would appear that this contributes to their health and vigor, for if left unstripped, they gradually decay, and in 50 or 60 years, a whole plantation will die, whereas the tree which are repeatedly peeled live and thrive upwards of 200 years. When the cork is removed from the trees, an exudation takes place which acquires consistency by the action of the air, and thus succeeding layer of cork is formed. The oldest trees afford the firmest cork, every successive peeling improving the quality. This is quite new to me. Will you tell me, Mother, in what countries the cork tree flourishes? It is a native of Asia, but grows in France, Spain, and Portugal. Our best cork is brought from the province of Guyenne in South France, in the south of France. The tree is a species of the oak and resembles it both in the shape of its leaves, its acorns, and its size. Do we use cork just as it is taken from the trees? No, it is piled in pits or ditches, filled with water and pressed flat by weights. When sufficiently soaked, it is taken out of the water, dried, and packed in bales for exportation. Is India rubber made of leather, Mother? I can think of nothing else which it resembles. No, my dear, it is a juice or gum issuing from a tree called caoutchouc, which grows in South America. It is known by different names as jatropha, so they can get down the vowels a little bit, or gum elastic, caoutchouc from the tree which yields it, and by us commonly called India rubber. It issues from the bark of the trees by incision in the state of a white milky liquid which hardens in the air, but it undergoes some preparation by the Indians before it is fit for use. We usually receive the rubber in the form of bottles. These are made by forming the gum over the clay molds. When the gum is hardened, it is exposed for several weeks to the action of smoke, after which the clay is broken out and the rubber is ready for use. The Indians make boots of it, which effectually exclude the water, and also sails for their boats, which are very durable. In Cayenne, the natives use it, made in the form of cylinders for torches. It burns with a bright flame, yielding a dense smoke, which affords good lamp black. I suppose that rubber burning, woo! I suppose, smell Gary, Indiana. I suppose they can make it into any shape they please. Yes, easily. We use India rubber for little else but to erase the marks of lead pencils and crayons, and as an ingredient in some kinds of varnish. Of late we wear shoes made of it. There is a kind of mineral caoutchouc, but it is very rare, having only been found in lead mines in England, and that in very small quantities. I really thought India rubber was made of leather and should never have suspected it to be a gum. Will you tell me, Mother, something about leather? I know it is the skin of various animals prepared for use. Yes, and tanning is the art of converting raw skins into that very useful article called leather. Skins are the general term for the hides of cows, calves, goats, does, seals, etc. The methods for preparing them are very various. Some being dressed with the hair and fur remaining on them, as buffalo skins, which you have seen, and seal skins, which are in great request with trunk makers and many other artists. Deer, sheep, lamb, and goat skins are commonly dressed in oil, and the kind of oil preferred for this use is cod liver oil. They are also dressed in sea salt and alum and likewise tanned. Tanned skins are converted into leather by being first steeped in lime water, which dissolves the gelatinous part of the skin and facilitates the removal of the hair. They are next steeped in an infusion of tannin, an astringent substance contained in many vegetables. This is obtained chiefly from chestnut and oak bark, gallnuts, grape seeds, and the wood of katichu, an Indian tree. By skins dressed in oil, I mean such as are converted into leather chiefly by the aid of oil. Tawed skins are such as are made into leather with alum, salt, meal, and some other ingredients. Skins are known by different names according to the manner of dressing or the animal from which they are taken. Kid is a delicate leather manufactured into shoes and gloves and is the skin of young goats. Chamois is a kind of leather much esteemed for its softness and was prepared only from the skin of a kind of wild goat called chamois. I wonder if it's chamois. Common in the northern mountains of Spain, in the south of France, in the Sardinian states and Germany. Now the art of tanning is better known. The same kind of leather is manufactured from deer, goat, and sheepskins. Morocco, here's a sheepskin one. Right here. So it's really thin and really pliable. Here's another sheepskin one that is formed. So water will allow this then for you to be able to mold this, and this stays in that mold. It dries in that mold. And this is made from lambskin, sheepskin. I don't know. Maybe it is lambskin. I think sheepskin. Here is cowhide. And these are really beautiful, I think. The thickness, the way it holds the color is much more beautiful than the thinner skin, probably more prevalent as well, but certainly harder to work with because it is so thick. But when you add the water, once you have it all cut out to your desired state, I pounded holes, as you can see, first, and then cut out the shapes, making sure that each leaf was really distinguished. And that was easy with leather scissors. So she talks about some, knowledge-based industry, and I give you some practical uses. If that's not practical, I don't know what is. Morocco, or Moroccan is the skin of a goat and is much used. It derives its name from the Kingdom of Morocco, where it is supposed the method of preparing these skins was first known. Great quantities of Morocco leather are brought from the Levant, from Barbary, Spain, Flanders, and France. It is variously colored, as you well know. Of parchment and vellum, I have already spoken. You will want to know further information respecting them. Skins are of very ancient use and were worn for clothing by many nations. Leather and skins are held in request by tanners, couriers, harness makers, coach makers, saddlers, chair makers, bookbinders, glovers, and other manufacturers. I had no idea that leather was in such extensive use. Can you tell me from what countries the greatest quantities of skins are brought? From many parts of South America, particularly Peru, from Saint Domingo, Barbary, and the Cape, Verde Isles, the eastern coast of Africa, Russia, Canada, and from the northwest coast of North America. Seal skins are obtained in great quantities from New South Shetland. The bell has rung 9, my daughter, some time since. I fear if you do not know bid good night, you do not now bid good night, you will rise late in the morning, which I should be sorry to do, dear mother, for I should lose my pleasant walk with Henry. Oh, that's nice. Practical questions. What is the process for making salt? How is china printed? What is japanning? What is varnish? What is cork? From what countries obtained? Describe the tree. What is India rubber? How obtained? To what uses is it applied? What is leather? How is it prepared for use? What is Morocco? What is parchment? And then our final chapter for today, our final conversation for today, conversation 12. Mother, what is the meaning of esculent vegetables? I heard my father say no country afforded them in greater abundance and variety than our own. Esculent means eatable, and esculent plants and vegetables are all such as are fit for food. Will you describe them to me? I suppose corn is among the number. Yes, all grains are of this class, and we will make them the subject of this evening's conversation. The grains which are made into bread, etc., for food are wheat, rye, barley, Indian corn, buckwheat, rice, and oats. Do these grains require much cultivation, Mother? Man must bestow long and patient labor before he can, with the blessing of heaven on his efforts, bring to perfection the fruits of the earth. Some, it is true, require much less labor than others in their cultivation, but none grow spontaneously in any great quantities. People have always had bread to eat, I suppose. No, you are mistaken. Men at first subsisted on milk and on fruits that grew without cultivation. Corn, like all other productions, was found scattered over the earth. People tasted it and learnt that it was nourishing and fit for food. From this, they proceeded to cultivate it in fields, and in process of time, they discovered how it might be made into bread. The cultivation of corn must be ancient, Mother, for you told me the other day that in the time of a famine in Italy, Gelon, king of Syracuse, sent vessels loaded with it to the suffering people. You are right, and history informs us that the Egyptians understood the cultivation of it many hundred years before the birth of Christ. The grains are all cultivated in the United States. Flour is wheat ground in a mill, and when mingled with yeast and water or milk and baked in an oven is called bread. Wheat is with us the most abundant grain and is chiefly cultivated in Middle States. In Maryland and in Virginia, the best grows in the western part of the state of New England. From wheat and barley is distilled gin. The liquor is flavored with juniper berries. Which are the Middle States, Mother? I do not recollect with certainty, though I have learnt them once. Then you had better refer to your geography, for by searching yourself for them, you will be more likely to retain their names than if I tell you. Here is the book. I have found them, Mother. They are New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. I do not think I shall forget them again. So these are the Middle States: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. I hope you will not, but do not shut your book. You must look for our western states. They produce the greatest quantities of maize or Indian corn. They are Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri. Very well. Buckwheat, rye, barley, and oats are cultivated in all the states which you have mentioned, as well as in New England. Barley is also very extensively cultivated in Great Britain and is chiefly made from malt, from which, with an infusion of hops, is made porter, ale, and beer. From rye is distilled an intoxicating liquor called whiskey. Thus does man pervert the blessing of benignant heaven, and from a wholesome grain extract a destructive liquor. In America, oats are employed for little else than food for cattle, but the lower classes of people in Great Britain and Ireland have no better bread than cakes made out of oatmeal. I'm impatient to learn something of rice, Mother. Rice is a native of China and the south of Asia. It is cultivated in most of the East Indian islands and is the chief food of the Hindus and Chinese. It is always cultivated in wet, swampy lands or in such places as can be flooded with water. Our southern states produce this grain abundantly, particularly Georgia and in the Carolinas. It was first brought to America by the captain of a vessel from the island of Madagascar in the year 1695. It is very nutritious and is said to increase and strengthen the blood more than any other grain. Have you told me all the substances from which bread is made, Mother? No. Millet, a sort of grain cultivated in the Barbary states in Spain and in Turkey, is eaten. The Delacarlians, who inhabited the northern parts of Sweden, make bread from the bark of the pine and birch. The inhabitants of Kamchatka, in the place of bread, eat the stems of the acanthus. The Indians inhabiting many islands of the eastern archipelago subsist almost wholly upon fruit of the rima or breadfruit tree. Pray describe it, Mother. The celebrated navigator Captain Cook says it is a tree growing about 20 feet high. Its leaves are of an oval form, frequently half a yard long and deeply indented. They resemble a fig leaf in color and when broken emit a milky juice. The fruit is nearly the size of a child's head. The surface is composed of a sort of network covered with thin skin. In the center is a core between which and the skin is an edible substance which has something of the taste and consistency of new bread. The fruits can be gathered fresh 8 months in the year. The fruit can be gathered fresh 8 months in the year. The wood of this tree is soft, yellowish, and light, and is much used by the natives in constructing their huts and canoes. I must not forget, while speaking of the substances which in some countries supply the place of bread, to describe the sago or linden tree, which grows in the Molucca Islands. Look on your map and see where the Moluccas are situated. I have found them, Mother. They lie southeast of Asia near the Isles of Sundra in the Indian Ocean. Is sago the fruit of the linden tree? No, it is the pith or inner part of the trunk. When the tree is felled, the natives cleave it in two and obtain the pith, which is even edible when fresh from the tree, but in order to make it more palatable, the pith is dried and reduced to a fine powder. This they carefully separate from the pieces of wood which remain in it and make into a sort of paste, which they either bake in cakes or granulate by passing it through a coarse sieve. Ropes and cloth are manufactured from the bark and leaves of the linden tree, and a pleasant drink is made from the sap extracted from the trunk. You know, too, that very good bread is made of yams and potatoes. What are yams, Mother? The roots of a small plant which grows in the southern states and in the West Indies. They very much resemble in taste our potatoes, but are about 4 or 5 times larger. Yams, when boiled, make very nice pudding and are considered both wholesome and nutritious. Potatoes you eat every day and need not be told what they are. They grow naturally in Peru and in many other parts of South America. From thence they were brought to North America and are considered quite indispensable at our dinners. These roots were introduced into Ireland about 1565, where for 50 years they were considered as rarities. The wreck of a shipload on the coast of Lancashire about that time is the fine notice we have of them in England. What are the esculent vegetables which are cultivated in New England, Mother? The most common are potatoes, besides which we have peas, beans, carrots, parsnips, beets, turnips, squashes, cucumbers, onions, etc. I suppose these are also common in Great Britain. Most of them are now, but history informs us that in the reign of Henry VIII, there did not grow in England any vegetable or edible root, and that Queen Catherine, his first wife, could not have a salad for her table till a gardener was procured from the Netherlands. I am very glad I did not live there then, mother, for I love vegetables very much. You will gradually learn, my daughter, that you live in an uncommonly happy age and country, and will, I hope, be thankful to your mother, who has given you the comforts and luxuries of food, and above all, a happy and quiet home. How was corn ground before mills were invented, mother? Sometimes it was pulverized between two stones. Afterwards, it was ground in small hand mills. This was a slow and laborious process. Hand mills succeeded mills turned by horses. Windmills were the next invention, and lastly, water mills. These last grind immense quantities of grain in a short time. In Ohio, floating mills are common and are very convenient, as they may be moved from place to place at pleasure. Is corn ready for the mill as soon as it is brought from the field, mother? I think that's wonderful. So this floating mill, so that the stores, the general stores, can get their grain. That is awesome. Is corn ready for the mill as soon as it is brought from the field, mother? No, Indian corn must be shelled from the cob. Wheat, rye, and other grains are beaten or threshed from the stalk or straw by means of an instrument called a flail. This consists of two round sticks made of very tough wood, united to end by a leather thong. With this, the grain is beaten till it separates from the straw, and we get our new crave underwear. It is next windowed in order to separate the chaff and dust, and then ready for the mill. The Hottentots have a singular method of threshing their corn. Round a smooth circular floor is built a fence about 3 feet high. The sheaves, to the number of about 1,000, are placed upon the floor. Then all the young horses on their farms are turned into the enclosure and made to run round the area for a number of hours till the whole is completely broken from the husks. A person stands in the middle of the circle with a long whip to regulate the course, while a few others are employed in turning the sheaves with forked sticks, that the whole may be broken from the straw. I should like the breed made from our own corn better, I think, mother. I should not much relish it after the corn had been trampled under horses' feet. The Hottentots, to be sure, are not in all respects remarkable for neatness. Have you nothing more to tell me of grain and bread, mother? I have no more leisure, my dear, this evening. Besides, it is your bedtime. So good night, and do not forget what I have told you. Oh, no, mother, I will not. Tomorrow I shall tell Brother Henry what you have taught me this evening. I do not think he knows about the Ohio floating mills and the way the Hottentots thresh their corn. Practical questions. What is the meaning of esculent vegetables? In what states is wheat extensively cultivated? What states produce the most Indian corn? Where is rice cultivated? Who brought it to America? From what is sago obtained? What are yams? When were potatoes first carried to Ireland? How is grain pulverized? How do Hottentots thresh their grain? This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and we have just completed another 3 chapters in our book, Conversations on Common Things by Dorothea Dix. Boy, she certainly has a really wonderful, enlightening, inspiring, educated life. I am so proud to be able to share that with you and, by the way, myself. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We are here on day 249 in the classroom. I'm the teacher, getting your mind, your body, and your spirit healthier. 3 days on, 4 days off. And these are what? These are like, what? 3/4 of a workday? What do I get on 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 4 hours? Half a workday. I'm working otherwise. Don't you worry about it. I was up until 1 o'clock this morning. Dr. Annette Feravich, who is still healthy, wealthy, wise. Thanks for joining me.